don't think too many men that could meet a man the size of Peter de Randt or past him. Michael throw for Chris Rousseau. Peter de Randt takes in. He's never been on a losing side for South Africa.
Osjuran piles in behind him. Ruben.
In a while. Yeah, it is. I was telling Kev, I think it was back 2011. Yeah. We were with you, I, Cobus. Okay. I think you were a Gary Gold. Oh, right. I think it was the Italian test. Correct, yeah. Yeah, because I think you were on the coaching staff. I was on the coaching staff then. 2010. 2010, was it? Well, you guys heard. Oh, we had a recess.
Hi everybody, I'm Kevin Ferguson. I have the absolute pleasure of sitting with two of the greatest rugby legends of all time, Randt and Scott Gibbs.
You're too kind, Kevin. You're too kind.
Well, something I never heard before. But
from my perspective, I think when I think of Oz, I think as one of the most revered and beloved Springboks of all time.
I think that in the Rugby World magazine voted him the second best loose prop of all time. I'm not sure who the first one was, but I mean. He is a legend, absolute legend. Probably the best loose head to play the game.
The question is, and I guess the question is on most people's minds, whether you, not so much maybe whether you're a Springbok supporter, but if you're certainly a British and Irish Lions supporter, right. The one moment obviously that connects us both is Durban, the second test, and that. What Oz would refer to as a missed tackle. Yeah. And certainly from my perspective, listen, I had a huge runway, so I could build up as much momentum, and it needed momentum to shift a guy like this, who was 6'3", 230. Yeah. But I'm asked about that all the time, and it's such a beautiful memory for me. And obviously it was a significant moment in the game, you know. Yeah. And these little battles, effort areas in games that win things, I mean, it really felt like that was the turning of the tide for our success.
Yeah, and I'm sure, I agree. I mean, games are won on small margins and momentum. And but I'm sure you'd trade that for the 2 World Cups at Os's.
Well, that's right, yeah. Os has two World Cup medals, yeah. And I have 2 cracked ribs from that collision. So,
Scotty, so yeah, obviously it's not one of my favorite memories. You know, because you know, the one thing that I always prided myself on was my ability to tackle, or maybe not the ability, but the passion. Yeah. To be in somebody's face and to make sure that you make those solid tackles, you know, and to get bombed like that and just shot off, you know. It's something that hurts, and especially when it made a significant change on the game. You know? Yeah. But that's rugby. I mean, that's sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Yeah. And for me, you know, I always respected that, because I mean, you were a strong runner. You know, you don't tackle you with half measures. You know. You have to give everything. And obviously on the day, everything wasn't good enough, you know, and but that's how it works.
Have you been asked about that incident or that tackle?
Especially in Wales, a lot of times. Yeah. So, but I mean, at the end, I always say, you know, it's recognition to Scott. You know, I mean, he was just on the moment, you know, and you can't take that away. It's like, you know, at scrum times, you know, sometimes you win the scrum battle, next game you don't win the scrum battle. So I think as a front rower, you know, we learn early in your career that it's a mental aspect. It's of your setup, everything else. If everything is correct, then you can make make those tackles. But obviously, being a tackle, versus a scrum, it's difficult to set yourself up because you have limited time and fractions of seconds that you have to do that. And the better the backline player can do it against our big boys, that's the name of the game.
There's no such thing as a perfect game and a perfect career. And you look at the significant body of work that Oz put during his career, bookended by, 2 World Cup winners' medals. There are errors, there are mistakes, but that's exactly what we love about football, because it is imperfect. There are intangibles, there are moments that just switch the momentum in the game. And certainly after this kind of collision, the body language changed for the Springboks. And of course that gives you a huge boost, especially against a nation like the Boks. Yeah,
Yeah, especially in those fine margins in that game. But also, let me ask you this: you were on the field for 80 minutes in the 2007 final. I don't know how much of the. I know you were on the field for the '95 World Cup. Yeah. What's the difference between those 2 World Cups for you, and which one was more meaningful?
It's difficult to differentiate between the two ones. I think that the first one, I was very naive. I was a youngster. 3 years before that World Cup, a doctor told me I will never play rugby again, and suddenly 3 years later, I'm in the World Cup final.
Wow.
And years later, being in the 2007 World Cup frame of mindset, where I had to work behind the scenes. When 95, I wasn't involved with those kind of things. So very different experience for me. But the one thing that sticks out is that 95 is like suddenly it just puts you there, and everybody notices you and puts you on a pedestal. And 07 was almost like farewell. You've done well, and because I always, when I first retired, I always said, I wanted to retire on a bang, and there's nothing better than retiring on the second World Cup win, and to be able to play in my 80th test, play 80 minutes in the final against England, it's really special, to accomplish that.
Well, what I find interesting, and thanks for the answer, what I find really interesting is when you came back, was it 2004 you came back? Three, sorry. So when you came
back, the Boks was 2004.
So there was a lot of criticism in terms of, you went through a lot of criticism from people about being old. What were you, about 30 back then?
32.
Yeah, so, which is pretty young in terms of where I'm sitting. But, so you're 32, you're getting a lot of criticism. Did you ever doubt yourself in terms of listening to the critics?
Oh, well, I get goosebumps, big time. I remember Jake called me and said, he wants to have a chat with me. And we sat down in the foyer in the hotel, and they said, I want to bring you back in the Springbok fold. And I said, what, as scrum coach? Or what? He said, no, as player. I said, really? And I said, but I don't know if I have the confidence, because people look at you, the Osteron Neo of the early or the mid-90s. And also, you look at pace, I had everything, and suddenly you don't have that pace because your knees are buggered. But obviously you change your game, and you start concentrating more on set piece and stuff like that. And I said, listen, Jake, if you want me there, I'm the biggest Springbok fan. I'll give it a go, and I'll go for it. So, but still, you have that big bear on your shoulders and whispering in your ear, you can't do it, you can't do it.
Where was your favorite place to tour when you?
I think probably, I always say your first tour is probably your first coach that picked you for the national side is the best coach ever. My first tour was to the UK, 8 weeks, long tour, 94.
That's a long time.
We only played 3 tests.
Really?
Yeah.
In 8 weeks?
In 8 weeks, yeah. Wow. Played Scotland and I can't even remember. I think, didn't we play Wales?
Maybe, yeah. When was that, 94?
Yeah. We played Swansea.
Yes, it was 94.
That big score against Swansea.
Swansea, big score,
Andre Joubert was...
Yeah, he scored about 5 tries or something.
He scored about 4 or 5 tries.
I was playing rugby league with St Helens.
Okay.
Okay.
And I remember because it was 92 was when Swansea beat Australia on an awful day, and there was so much more anticipation about the first time I think the Springboks had been in Wales for a very, very long time.
Very long time.
Hammered them.
Yeah, we had a big score.
Swansea hammered.
No. Springboks hammered them. So we played Scotland, I think.
Didn't you play Neath as well?
We played Neath. That was a fight game.
Yeah.
That tight head of theirs. He's a strong bugger. But
Was was that Brian Williams?
Nah.
No.
Nah.
Describe him. Was it short?
He was short. He almost had like a pit bull type of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Jeremy Pugh. Is it him?
Yeah, I think so.
And what was the camaraderie like in the team in '92?
Yeah, well, I only started in '94, so obviously '92. '92 was the first.
I would know.
The first game, we just came out of isolation. So yeah, I think there was. I mean, when Kitch took over, there was a lot of baggage with Ian McIntosh, and I don't know why. But Kitch was strict, and him and Francois Pinard, they controlled everything, the pace of the practice, what you do and when you do it, and so they were the maestros, and being a youngster, and I never realized that. Only years later you realize that. But the camaraderie was always good. I mean, we always had to struggle a little bit with coming out of strong curry cups, which was our livelihood. So there was always provisionalism.
Well, we watched the rugby earlier on, and South Africa beat Australia 30-12. And you're a bit nervous. I found that very interesting that you're still so passionate about the box that
I get so nervous. Even I watch games that I know we have won, and I still get nervous. I always worry there must be some voodoo on it, and it might change to the other side. But no, I get nervous because I think in some sense, I know the pride, and I know, the passion that goes into it, and I also know the pressure that's on the boys, especially in South Africa. People expect us to win, and for the guys to really go well now, and I'm sure and I'm convinced that Rassie and his management that they play a huge role in mentoring these guys to how to manage it and how to make sure that it doesn't go to your head, because those kind of things it breaks down teams. But for me, it's that passion. It's that I've been there. I know that hurt when you lose 49-0 against Australia, or Scott Gibbs runs over you. I know that hurt, and it does happen because it's rugby. There's winners and there's losers. So that's why I get nervous, and because I'm passionate. I back South Africa 100%. With all the other stuff that's going on in the country, it's the one place where we know at least we can compete with the world on first stage. So for me it's about the honor, and it's about the passion, and it's about what all the ex-players did to set up the whole thing and to bring us to this point where we recognize in the world as
I'm a big advocate of that. There's times when I look back at the Springboks and caught some of the games in '68 on film, in the '70s, and we didn't see so much of them during the '80s period. But I mean, always produced some pretty incredible athletes, rugby athletes.
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
And I think that is the genius of the management style, because it is different.
Yeah.
You know, Rassie is out there, isn't he? I mean, he's a very curious man in his style, in his application to what the replacement breakdown looks like.
And also with his engagement with the media, because when you look at the Esterhazen hit, the Farrell hit on Esterhazen, and him doing those, the showing Esterhazen how to tackle high. I mean, he is. I mean, you've known Rassie and played with him. You know, he was played for the Cheetahs for a long time. So, are you surprised by any of the success that by the incredible success that Rassie has brought to the Buck camp?
I'm not surprised by his success. What I am surprised is how good he manages the media, because in the beginning that was the one thing that we thought as back then as players that he struggled to work with. But obviously he's done his homework, because that is who Rassie is. He analyzes everything, and I'm sure he analyzed whatever he needed to analyze to handle whatever comes his way. You know, and I think that sets him apart, you know, that and I think also with his openness towards his players, you know, sometimes coaches don't speak out openly to players, you know, they keep everything among themselves, you know, and they expect players must understand how you think and where you want to progress and what you want the outcome of this game to be.
Where did you get your nickname?
So obviously ox means ox. Yeah. Obviously ox doesn't have balls. So they tried to shove me there, and they couldn't pin me down to do that when I was in grade. And then the one guy said, "You're as strong as an ox."
Okay.
And he's as stout as an horse, you know, strong as an horse.
I love it.
The nickname just stuck there. And then I went to the army in Bloemfontein, and I thought it'll get lost. And there was one guy that knew me as Os, and he thought, and then it just grew up. In '95, I was called Peter Durant. And nobody knew me as Os Durant, it was still Peter Durant. Because that's my no, my real name is Jacobus Petrus, and then my family called me Peter. And then my mother was so cross with that nickname. Yeah, so you're not an ox. Why don't they call you bull? So if you look at Chasing the Sun, you know, where Rassie absolutely, you know, he speaks to his players, they know exactly what he expects of them. And to be in their faces, like after the Ireland game in the World Cup, where he told a few players, listen, you and you can start preparing for the semis. The rest of you, I don't know. And you don't often get that, because you tend to put your players in cotton, you know, you want to protect them and stuff. But he's in their face, but in the same sense, they also know that he's got their backs. It doesn't matter what happens, he will back them. But they also know that he expects more from them than just get to the field and play. And I think that makes him exceptional good. And obviously his analysis. And I can tell you that he was the first player that I think in the world that bought his own analysis program. First, the Lions, they bought a new one and they wanted to sell the old one. And Rassie bought it for himself. And he started analyzing the games. Dejan Strauss played against him for Australia. And he analyzed him so well that Dejan Strauss, he looked up Rassie was in front of him. And he just knew exactly, and that's what Rassie does. You know, he knows where he wants to go because he's done that.
Yeah, very few players in any sport, I think, that have hit the top as an international rugby player and also in coaching and management.
Yeah,
and especially his, you know, unorthodox style.
Yeah,
but you can't. help but respect it.
Yeah.
And
Well, the
he's
results speak for themselves.
but I suppose, to Oz's point, it's this continuous relentlessness for the pursuit of excellence, you know, that I think separates him from the others.
And like we said earlier as well, you know, he's not scared to go out and let's try things.
No.
He obviously will analyze it and work through, and he will know if it can work or not work. So he's not that much. Because in my opinion, sometimes you get coaches that coaches ideal world, where Rassie is probably a mix of that. So he chases the ideal kind of setup, but he also knows that in weather like today, for example, don't force the ball at the back and try to play a flashy backline move. You know, you have to whatever needs to be done. You know, and where Rassie is very good with that. But I think his player management is the one thing that South African coaches could never do, because you'll get South Africa Springboks to one game they're there, next game they're there, they lose a game, and then we hurt and Wales stopped us, and then we said, next game, man, we can't do this, we're proud, and then you win the game again, you know. And where Rassie's got the ability with building depth and all those things that is put him up there to be able to win games.
Yeah, he's, some would say, and I wouldn't disagree, that he's a bit of a rugby genius.
Well, I think he's radical in his approach, isn't it? Which is, and it's also constantly evolving.
Yeah.
He's obviously at points in his career where he's made mishaps with the media and caused some consternation, etc. But there's always been a method in his madness.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
But I also think he surrounded him with good people, you know,
Yeah.
with people that gave him direction and leaders, or leaders, not leadership, direction in the sense of what to do and what not to do, you know. So I think he's very shrewd. You know, he knows how to manipulate. He knows how to get in your head. And that's what you want from a coach. You know, if it's just a straightforward game, it's easy to rock up there and say, listen, we're playing the Springboks, so put your body on the line. You'll only train with the next week with the captain's practice. So if you hurt and you saw during the week, that's fine. We're not going to train. But suddenly bringing in Tony Brown, and now the box is they already tick the physicality in scrums, mauls, and tackle, get off the line, be in your face, and suddenly now you start playing the expansive game, you get within your game, and getting within your game makes it so much harder to defend on guys that are running hard, solid lines. Yeah, it just makes it difficult to not get those kind of momentum going. We just get behind the advantage line, and once that happens for any side, that's where you start winning games.
Also, you being such a great player over your career, there's certain accolades that you get. And how is it being recognised and inducted into the World Rugby Hall of Fame in 2019? What can you tell me a bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's as I earlier said, it's not something that I said as a achievement or as a goal. There was only one goal for me in rugby. My father we sit around the kitchen table on the farm, and he always said to me, he said, there's only one way you play rugby, is that you don't expect mercy, but you don't give mercy, because that will give you respect, and that will earn you respect. And that's how I played rugby. You know, I'd never punch guys on the field. It wasn't necessary for me.
Yeah.
I wasn't into that. If you wanted to box, let's go down the pavilion like that.
Leave that to Packies.
So you know, I said, listen, all right, so carry the ball, I'll tackle you.
Yeah.
So that's how I will dominate you.
Yeah.
Let's get to the scrum. Let's try there. You know, so that's how. And for me, you know, to gain that recognition is because also in the same breath, I always say that you don't, in life, you don't do anything to not get recognition. You don't tell your wife you love her not to expect her to say I love you too, or you tell your kids. You want some sort of thank you. That's recognition, and for me that was thank you. Just to be able or to realize that people outside of South Africa also rated me and put me in that sense where you've achieved something, you know, that for me is what went through my mind, you know, and obviously your name is up there, nobody can take it away, and something that your people, or your kids and their kids can talk about.
Yeah, if you were Welsh, also, if you were Welsh, we'd be singing about you in the valleys for many years to come, wouldn't we, Scott?
Not really.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Max Boyce would have written a song.
I've no doubt about that. So as you in '95, Springboks won the World Cup against huge odds, really.
Yeah.
You'd been out of the game for so long. So that was the amateur era. What was it like navigating out of the amateur era into the professional era?
I think to be honest, I don't think we had a clue what to do.
Yeah.
I think Saru and those guys, they tried to do something, but I think we made a lot of mistakes. But again, I mean, you can't change that. But it was difficult to really, we started Super 10. Actually, Super 10 was before '95, I think, if I remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then it became Super 12 after the World Cup. And I think the New Zealand concept was much better, where they controlled the players, where we were still in the amateur Currie Cup franchise type of battle, where provinces were still wanted to have the control over the players, where New Zealand, for example, said no, the main body must have control over the players. And it took us many years. We're still basically in the same kind of thing, but at least now with Rassi and those guys, you know, we're starting to control that thing better. But it's for me, I wasn't really, obviously not involved with it, you know. I was just, at that moment, I just wanted to play rugby now. So I didn't really know what they were doing. I just wanted to play rugby.
95 World Cup was a watershed moment, wasn't it? Because it kind of switched the lights on from a commercial and a professional perspective.
Yeah.
You know, 95, long time ago. As World Rugby and has, you know, all its constituent members, have they got it right? Absolutely not. It's not it's an imperfect model. But the fact is that the application and enthusiasm to play rugby has never waned, you know, in any one of these countries.
I think the main difference between '95 and the other World Cups before that was Gary Packer and Murdoch.
Yeah.
Because they got involved and said, listen, we want to contract these guys. Where in '91 and '87 they weren't there, so there was no contract. So how are you going to go professional if there's no money involved? And I think that probably got us over the edge.
In many respects, you have to applaud Rupert Murdoch and Fox for backing the you know, the Super Rugby franchise.
Yeah.
Because without that, you know, that was the enabler, that was the facilitator.
That was the fire. That was the spark. The game in Perth now, so it's a short flight back, so it also works to benefit the box. But it's tough, especially if you go over to New Zealand. I mean, you leave Sunday night in Cape Town when you go to Christchurch. You leave Sunday night, you arrive 6 o'clock Tuesday morning. And then you haven't slept on the plane.
You lose 2 days.
Would you guys be in business or would you be in economy?
Well, first we flew cattle class, and then with the Free State did us, they booked us as like the team, number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5. So like when you have to eat, you let every second guy doesn't eat, you know, the other guy eats. And that was tough. But lately the guys, then we started with the Super Rugby, we started flying business class. Now they also only give like I think 24, 25 business tickets, and then your other guys must fly.
And will they allocate that obviously to the bigger guys?
Yeah,
they don't do it alphabetically then.
No. Normally what they did is obviously your starting lineup will be in business class. Yeah.
Another reason to stay in the team, isn't it?
Yeah, another reason to stay in the team, yeah. I remember the story is huge. Ruan Pino, he's a great guy. So he got a business class seat, and then Lou de Jager walked past him to the cattle class, and he went to us and now let's swap.
Really?
Yeah, how nice is that?
Oh, that's lovely. And he's played for the Cheetahs and scrum half for the Cheetahs.
Yeah. 40 years old when he retired. He did very well.
But that's a selfless act for someone who's someone who's 6'10".
He had like triple the test matches that Lou de Jager had.
Cats, baby.
Okay.
Sounds jazzy, doesn't it?
Talk us through that. We chatted about it earlier in the bar, but I mean, just for on paper, it sounds like a wonderful concept.
And I think that's when they started. So listen, let's go to a type of regional where you have 3-4 sides that compete as a separate identity, and the Cats was born out of that. So it was Cheetahs, Griffins, and Griquas, and then the Lions. But it was difficult for us, because it was forced onto us to go to Joburg, stay in Joburg for almost for the whole competition, So we were on tour for almost for the whole 13 or 14 weeks, however, the duration of the competition, and it was tough on us, We had to travel, train the whole week, and then you drive back to Bloemfontein on a Friday afternoon, and then you have to drive back on a Monday morning again, and you don't see your family for a whole week. And obviously those guys didn't really worry about that because we weren't close, we four identities, but in essence it was only the two sides that got together because the other sides were too small really, and they didn't produce really players that were involved, So it was always the Cheetahs and the Lions that struggled and they had to fight, and I think also that was the reason why 99 Cats side they had their base in Vanderbijl Park, due to that fact, just make it the same for everybody. You have to travel, everybody has to travel. But it was tough. We had good games. We had stages where or certain tours and stuff that was good. But there was always that kind of rivalry. There was not really an acknowledgement of the Cheetahs, and that's maybe because I'm biased because I was from the Cheetahs. The Lions guys might feel different, and I'm sure they can. But we always felt, that we were the guys that bent backwards and to make it work, and we had to travel and we had to make all the sacrifices. So it was really tough for us with the Cats. As I said, good games, bad experiences, great experiences, but still we had the chance to play the game.
Yeah, fair point. The traveling to New Zealand and Australia during the Super Rugby. We were chatting earlier on talking about the URC, and it certainly seems to have worked out well for South Africa, and not so well for Australia and New Zealand. That travel schedule going into New Zealand and Australia was always something that did not favour the South African teams.
No, not at all. Perth, Sydney, Christchurch, and then you drive with the bus for another 5-6 6 hours, and you leave South Africa on Sunday night, and you only arrive like Tuesday afternoon. You know, so it's tough. Jet lag is much worse going that side, and you know, and for us, you know, we always try to explain to them, you know, it's tough on us. You know, we go there, and sometimes you don't have the luxury of what the Springboks had now to go earlier, you know, 1 week earlier. But it's tough, you know, and I think playing in the URC now, I think we get a better chance of playing in wet weather, which we don't know how to play in. We used to playing in bright sunny weather. Playing there, I think the guys get better understanding of what they want to do. I think the UK play much more the same style that we do, strong scrums, mauling.
There's a traditional.
There's traditional type of thing where we, and I think the biggest benefit maybe for us is that at the moment I sometimes get the feeling, and I don't know if I'm right, I might be wrong, but sometimes I get the feeling that not playing against Australia and New Zealand is to our benefit, and because it almost seems like New Zealand, Australia
can't play without their bedfellows.
Yeah,
there's something lacking, isn't it? You can see.
Not really that, but it gives us. I think we go into those games with better confidence. Yeah. I think that helps us big time.
Are you sleeping there, Kevin?
No, I wasn't sleeping. Yeah.
What could be better, you know? Catching up with old friends.
It's been a long day. It was a long night last night.
Yes, yeah. Maybe the caveat is that Mr. Ferguson and I had a long, languid lunch.
Yeah,
a bit of a rinse, as they call it.
It's all part of the game.
So, talk us through your favorite stadium to play at, like your favorite place to tour, your least favorite place to tour.
Yeah, I think in South Africa probably between Loftus and Ellis Park, just because of the fact that it's high altitude, it's colder weather. I tend to sweat a lot, so I don't like playing in high humid type of concepts. Netherlands was always that type of UK type of games where it can be wet and muddy and slippery underfoot. So up there, it's and obviously we won the first World Cup up there, so that also makes it special. Overseas, I think just playing in Scotland, just to hear the people sing the anthem, their anthem.
Can you understand the Scottish though? Some are harder than others.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and I roomed with Doddy Way.
Yeah.
And we had our biggest fights with I just say, sorry, can't hear you. Excuse me. Say again. And he would go, I can still not hear you.
Well, even Scotty, when he came to Cape Town, my daughter, 13, and she said, I'm sorry, Dad, I just can't understand what he's saying.
It's difficult. But there's obviously certain regions that it's easier.
Yes, yeah.
So I really, in '94 was the first tour. I can't remember why we stayed there. It wasn't a tour. We stayed in Aberdeen, and it was just this little. I don't know if I'm right. I might be absolutely wrong. But what I remember and recall is that it was this place, and it was just this beautiful country and side, you know, and the mountains and stuff. So that was good for me. I don't enjoy particularly going to England, London per se, because it's metropolitan. It's a city. You know.
And it's fair to say this goes back to your roots as, you know, living out in Bloem and, you know, being more of a countryman rather than a city guy. Yeah.
Exactly. So the one thing that I hate about cities and stuff is public transport and stuff like that. I don't feel natural. It's not natural for me. I hate it because everybody's pushing against each other and everybody's sweating, and I don't like that. So I'd like to be between people. Farmers I enjoy because they're always the same.
You know, and connecting with nature.
Correct.
Yeah.
So on a more human side, I think there's no place better to tour is Scotland and Wales. Just
and you've never lost to either of those teams.
Yeah, but just to be able to walk out this pub and literally the next door you can go into another pub. It's amazing. We never experienced that.
No. Well, I know that Cardiff really loves it when South Africa is in town.
Yeah, they do.
Because folks from London or from all over the UK will travel down by train or drive, and there'll be some obviously from these shores travel in. But the fact is that there's a lot of great hospitality in in Cardiff. On match day, it's reminiscent of what the hospitality you get here. You know, wherever there's a festival and people want to have fun and. Well, that's why I think the Box love coming to Cardiff, don't they? I mean, they just they do let the hair down as well.
I think in some sense we the same. You know, we think about the same. We like our drink, so we like to have that bond, you know. And I think the Welsh and the Scottish are very much the same.
Yeah.
And what was it like playing the British and Irish Lions? Compared to New Zealand, for example.
I mean, it's the essence of you putting yourself out there as a team and say, listen, we're going to play against 4 nations now, and I think that makes it easiest to say if you win that game, you didn't win Scotland, you didn't win Wales, you won. Collectively, you won all 4 of those guys teams, you know, and I think that makes it so much more prestigious and honourable to say, you know, you've played against those guys, and especially if you were able to win them.
And you scored against the British and Irish Lions as well, didn't you?
A long time ago.
Do you remember your 5 tries that you scored?
Not really. There was only about 5. So he did.
Which one was from the longest way out?
Well, my longest one was actually wasn't for the Springboks. It was for the Cheetahs. So from a line out, so we played around against Transvaal.
Yeah.
So we got the ball, and our lock carried the ball, and I got the ball about on the 10 meters and scored just left of the sticks. So yeah, but the others were normally close to the line. Pick and goes or some shenanigans around yours picking up. And
do you know, I could have played for Transvaal.
Really?
I had a clandestine. I remember having a clandestine meeting with Kitch Christie, and a certain World Cup winning captain of that era, Francois, in the Holiday Inn in Cardiff on Westgate Street. You know, I think it was back in the early 90s. And it was, you know, they invited me, come over, we'll sort you out with this, that and the other, you'll find employment, you know. I think they were, you know, current Currie Cup champions. And I was like, wow, this could be interesting. But of course, wind got out that there was this type of meeting, and it was the first time I realized that by doing that, you would essentially professionalize yourself, and I would be banned from playing rugby, you know, in Wales, and I dare say in the world. So it's always, I always think of those sliding door moments. You know, well, what could have been? Because, you know, I could have spent a big chunk of time in Johannesburg and played in the Currie Cup, and you know, may have stayed and, you know, fell in love, had a family. Yeah. Could have been a Springbok type of thing. But it didn't work out that way.
Yeah. What were the rules back then, Scott, in terms of playing for South Africa? What would you have to? I mean, was it a possibility because you'd already played for Wales? You know?
No, it was a possibility, but it would have been a one-way journey.
Yeah.
Because essentially, I was told in no uncertain terms that if you do this, you kind of, you know, under the auspices of our amateur code of conduct, you will be kind of what they call signed die. That's it. Yeah. So, you know, you kind of think about it all, but then you know, you have these conversations, and you were told categorically that it's a no-go. Well, it's not going to be in your best interest, and it probably wasn't. It probably wasn't at that time. Now, if I was starting as a professional now, I'd be eyes wide open about, well, I'd love to come and play for a year or two in South Africa. And I think that's what's great about the game now, is that, well, you know, if you've you know, had 5 or 6 years with the Sharks, Stormers or Lions or the Bulls or whatever, you have the ability to go and play in Europe, in Italy or in France or in Ireland, Scotland, wherever. And we see so many South Africans. And I think that's one of the testaments to why I love the South African rugby mentality so much, is that when they come to Europe or they come to Wales and play with whatever club, is that, you know, they put a shift in. Oh, yeah. They put a shift in. You know, the great investments, value for money, you know.
And more when you talk about playing for clubs.
Yeah. And when Gary Teichmann first came to Newport, you know, big name, but the guy, you know, delivered. Yeah. Monty came, they delivered. And it's time after time, when we go in, you know, for the last 20 or 30 years, hundreds of you know, arrived on the shorelines of the British Isles and just switched it on. There's never been, I feel, a bust, you know.
Yeah. Do you still get nervous when you watch Wales games?
No. No, I don't. No, I don't get nervous when I watch a test match. I get excited. I tell you what, you.
Really? I'm so nervous now. I watch games that I know we've won, and then I still get nervous.
Yeah. It's strange, isn't it?
Oh, God.
Come on, guys.
Wow.
Don't lose the ball.
So you also, Scott, you had a period in your life where you also had an injury, a bad injury.
Yeah, I had an injury in. I just returned from the '93 Lions tour to New Zealand, and I think returned to obviously fanfare and celebration, even though we didn't win that Test series. By the December, I got picked for the Barbarians to play in Cardiff against the All Blacks, and it was, I think, late in the game, and I kind of bust on the left-hand side. I stepped off my left foot, and I was just about to swerve again when I was caught off balance on my right leg, and Jeff Wilson had kind of hit me, strongly up high and tilted me over. My knee collapsed. So I instantly knew that, wow, this could be the end. Could be the end. And that was the precursor for my decision to then go and sign for a Super League club. So I signed for St. Helens then in the ensuing April.
What was... Did you have a lot of support during this, or did you feel a bit alienated? Or?
No. I think the general theme was alienation and kind of, not another one leaves. But there was enough of a fraternity up in the north of England from a rugby league perspective that was a warm embrace. But essentially, this was in the amateur days, and of course, by signing a professional rugby league contract, that you were no longer able to come back and play rugby union. So it was that kind of, that stiff one way, this is what my career is going to look like now.
Well, what age did you start believing, because I'm assuming that a lot of kids want to play for the Springboks, and it's a dream of a lot of kids. But what age did it start becoming a reality for you?
Very, very late. I played under 12 and under 13 Craven Week. But it never really dawned onto me, that, listen, I can actually make something of this. then went to boarding school and you know, playing under 14, under 15, under 16, they picked me for the first team. And then suddenly I thought, okay. And I think I also realized that if you play for the first team, suddenly the girls like you. And suddenly, you know, suddenly people recognize you. And I mean, that's makes it, it's something that everybody wants. I think that's the first time that I really realized. And then in my last year in school, I blew my knee, torn ACL, and the doctor told me I will never play again.
Wow.
And my father said, well, I don't have money to do the repairs. And left it like that, did no rehab, went to army and started jumping up and down sawmills and doing pole PT and all that kind of stuff. So my knee feels good.
Yeah.
Strapped it, pulled on those braces with the steel
Yeah.
hinges on the side, and I start playing, you know, and I think the first time off, you know, that I really thought was in playing in '92, playing trials for Technicon in Bloemfontein, and the coach called me and they said, if you keep playing like this, you will play in the '95 World Cup.
Wow.
And I said to him, no way. And then in '93, I did the reconstruction of my knee, and I played my first game for the Cheetahs the 3rd of August in '94. I played my first test 11th of October the same year.
Wow.
Things from that stage, where it felt like ages, it's suddenly,
Yeah.
I was there, you know, and I think that's also helped me to realize, you know, that, you know, you think you're out, you think you're in, and then suddenly it's opposite.
Yeah.
So make the best of the times when you're there.
Os, what an absolute pleasure it is to chat to you and meet you. You're absolute legend, mate. And thanks for spending the day and enjoying the game with us. And thanks very much.
Thanks, Ewan.
And Scott?
Scotty,
Cheers, buddy.
Thanks, bud. I only have one request, though.
Yeah.
Is that we do that tackle over.
Yeah.
Now the sidestep.
Yeah.
I don't think too many men that would meet a man the size of Peter Durant or past him. Michael throw for Chris Rousseau. Peter Durant takes in. He's never been on a losing side for South Africa.
Yes, Durant piles in behind him. Ruben.